So for today's session, I will be discussing the application procedures for the ASEAN-Wide Self-Certification Scheme. So I will be discussing what it is about. The ASEAN-Wide Self-Certification Scheme is basically a trade facilitation initiative that really aims to simplify and streamline procedure to claim and be granted with the ATIGA preferential tariff. So as we know, in claiming preferential treatment under the ATIGA, we have the paper-based CO, we have the electronic certificate of origin, and we have this self-certification system. So once the exporter obtain their certified exporter status under the ASEAN, they can now self-certify their goods through origin declaration anytime and wherever they are or whenever they want. So under this AWSC, the exporters may apply for certified exporter status and once granted, may issue an origin declaration that certifies the originating status of their goods, which may be used in lieu of a certificate of origin to claim for ATIGA preferential treatment or preferential tariffs. So please take note that this ASEAN-wide self-certification scheme will not replace the paper-based CO and the electronic certificate of origin that we have. So this is just, again, an additional option for the exporter to use in claiming preferential tariff treatment. Okay, so um, flash on your screen, we have the 10 ASEAN member states wherein we can export our goods using the self-certification system or the ASEAN-wide self-certification scheme through origin declaration only to the ATIGA. So I would like to make it clear that this ASEAN-wide self-certification scheme is only applicable to these 10 ASEAN countries. So wala pa po tayong self-certification sa ibang FTAs except for the ATIGA, for the PH-EFTA, and for the REX system. Okay, so what are the benefits of the AWSC? So first, it facilitates intra-ASEAN trade. So say for instance, you will be exporting your goods to ASEAN country, for example, that is Malaysia. And then it so happened that the good to be exported falls under on a weekend or on a holiday. So as we know, it is not possible to obtain a certificate of origin on a weekend or on a holiday because close ang BOC. So under this AWSC scheme, the exporter can issue his origin declaration even on a holiday for as long as they are registered and accredited by the Bureau of Customs. Next, it streamlines export procedures because now it is already the company who issues the origin declaration. And it also reduces administrative burden and cost because you have the exporter no longer have to go with the origin certificate of origin process. They don't have to buy anymore the accountable forms of the certificate of origin form D. And it also improves the ease of doing business. And it really facilitates on how you export your goods to the ASEAN region. And lastly, it provides operational certainty to businesses because you will be the one to make the origin declaration for your company. So we have here the business process of the AWSC. So the business process of the AWSC is categorized into 3 phases. So first, we have the application and accreditation. So in the application and accreditation, the exporter need to apply for a certified exporter status in the Bureau of Customs through the Export Coordination Division. So the exporter need to submit all the requirements needed, including the product evaluation report, the application form, and so on, in the Export Coordination Division. So the exporter can either submit his application through the BOC portal, which will be discussed after me by Mr. Rico Polintang, and either through the ECD email. So once the exporter is already accredited with the Bureau of Customs as a certified exporter, is that it does not automatically mean that he is already he can already issue his origin declaration. So if you are the exporter you have to make sure that you are already registered in the ASEAN database, which is being managed by the ASEAN Secretariat. So, for example, the exporter is already registered and already granted with a certified exporter status, and then you have to make sure that you are already registered. That's why when we issue when the exporter applies for this scheme, we issue the customs authorization number. We have there the date of registration and the date of effectivity. Usually, we give 1 week allowance to the date of registration and date of effectivity, just to make sure that it is already registered and acknowledged by the ASEAN Secretariat. Next, we have the certification and clearance. So the certified exporter self-certifies its origin declarations, which will then be presented to the customs authority of the importing country for for purposes of claiming the ATIGA preferential tariff. So it is just the same with the certificate of origin form D, only that it is already the exporter that certifies that his good originates in the Philippines. So same thing when you have your certificate of origin form D, once it is already signed and issued with the corresponding reference number stamped by the Bureau of Customs seal, then it will then be transmitted by the exporter to their counterpart abroad. So it's just the same with the origin declaration. Only that when the exporter be given with the customs authorization number, it will no longer pass through the BOC. Kumbaga, it's between the exporter and the importer na. So let's proceed to who can apply under the ASEAN-wide self-certification scheme. First, we have the manufacturer. Second is the exporter. And the last but not the least is the trader. So in case of a trader, since usually po, yung mga trader, they are not the one who manufactures their product to be exported. Usually, we recommend them to have their certification coming from the manufacturer, because as a trader, you should have the idea on how the goods to be exported are being manufactured. So does it meet the ATIGA origin requirements to be considered as originating in the Philippines? That's why it is important that the trader should also have the idea on how the goods are being manufactured by the manufacturer and the exporter. So how to become a certified exporter under the AWSC? So flash on the screens, there are 7 criteria or conditions on how to become a certified exporter under the AWSC. So first, it should be registered in the exporting member state. So for example, company A will be exporting to Malaysia, and then that company should be registered in the Philippines to check if that company is a legitimate exporter. Next is the extensive knowledge on ATIGA ROO. So this is very important. This condition number 2. It's because since you will be the one certifying that your goods meet the criteria under the ATIGA ROO, you should have the knowledge. You should have the knowledge on how the goods are manufactured, if it really attains the requirements of RVC 40 or the change in tariff heading. And then next is the experienced exporter. So at least you are exporting to the ASEAN or to other trading partners of the Philippines for at least 1 year or 2 years, and then no record of ROO fraud. So this is very important because, for example, the exporter misdeclared or did not correctly identify correctly describe the goods to be exported in the importing country. So that could be one reason that it could be identified as ROO fraud. Next, good compliance measured by the risk management rules and has a sound bookkeeping and record keeping system, because as we know, the Bureau of Customs also conducts audit and verification visit in the event that the importing country requests for a verification of the goods. it is important that you have the sound bookkeeping and record keeping system to prove the goods that are previously imported in the importing country. Next, for traders must have a manufacturer's declaration. So this is what I have mentioned earlier, that since they are a trader, they did not manufacture their goods, they should coordinate with their manufacturer, especially on how the goods met the ROO criteria under the ATIGA. Let's proceed to the obligations of certified exporter under the AWSC scheme. So first, the exporter should keep its supporting records in relation to all origin declarations made out for not less than 3 years from the date of making out the origin declaration. Same with allow the Bureau access to records and premises for the purpose of monitoring the use of the authorization and the verification of the correctness of the declarations made. So it is really important. That's why you have to keep a record of your origin declarations made, kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng audit. So, hindi ibig sabihin na nag-issue na ang exporter ng origin declaration today, ay magkakaroon na ulit ng audit ang BOC. So, pwedeng after 3 years, after 2 years. So, depende. For example, nagkaroon din ng nag-request ang importing authority ng verification visit to check if the goods really met the ROO criteria under the rules of origin. You have to allow the Bureau of Customs access to records and premises. And then make out the origin declaration only for goods for which the certified exporter has been authorized to make out an origin declaration. So upon submission of application to become a certified exporter in the Bureau of Customs through the Export Coordination Division, you will indicate in your application form all the products that you want to be included in your certified exporter status, because only those products that are uploaded by the Bureau of Customs in the AWSC database should be the one to be reflected in the origin declaration. So for example, meron kayong product na hindi kasama dun sa previous application nyo to become a certified exporter. You have to inform us, kasi otherwise it will not be honored and it will not be recognized by the importing country. Next, for the duration of authorization, ensure that the persons responsible for making out the origin declarations know and understand ROO application, because as we know, even though it is already a self-certification, it will still be subjected to retro-verification in the event that there is a reasonable doubt from the importing country. Next, assume full responsibility for all origin declarations made on behalf of the company, including any misuse, and promptly inform the ECD of any changes related to the information submitted. So for example, your finished goods to be exported no longer met the criteria set forth by the rules of origin under the ATIGA, you have to inform us so that magkakaroon tayo ng re-evaluation. It may also include change in address, change in the signatory. So you have to promptly inform the ECD so that we can do the necessary amendment also in the AWSC database. Otherwise, if you have any changes and you did not inform us that you have a new signatory or you have a new address, it may result to rejection or it will not be honored by the importing country. Next, submit a quarterly summary report of all origin declarations. So we have a format of that. We can share it to you should in case mag-apply po kayo for self-certification, because isa to sa mga compliance ng exporter that they need to submit to the Export Coordination Division. So let's proceed to the documentary requirements to become a certified exporter under the AWSC. First is to have a duly accomplished application form. So with this one, I can share it to you, or you can send us an email, or I can also share it to PhilExport so that they can also give you a copy for that. And then the unique reference number as Philippine Economic Zone authority locators, and CPRS for non-PEZA locators or other free zone locators. Next is the list of officials and their position in the company authorized to sign the origin declaration with their respective specimen signatures not to exceed 10 persons. So yung maximum natin for the authorized signatories is up to 10. But again, in the submission of the requirements for the AWSC or to become a certified exporter, I suggest and I recommend to also send the specimen signature in JPEG form because I upload it in the AWSC database. Kasi kung isi-send nyo lang siya, for example, you will just sign a paper and then have it submitted to the BOC, I cannot upload it in the AWSC database. So meaning, it should be converted into JPEG each signature. Next, evaluation report for goods applied for authorization to make out an origin declaration. So it is really important, the product evaluation report. Although you are the one self-certifying your goods to be exported, you still need to undergo product evaluation report to the Export Coordination Division. In the case of a trader, a manufacturer's declaration indicating the origin of the product for which it will make out an origin declarations and readiness of the manufacturer to cooperate in retroactive check and verification visit should the need arise. Flash on your screen is the application procedures for certified exporter. So we have here the first step. Applicant submits complete documentary requirements to Export Coordination AOCG, Export Coordination Division AOCG. ECD shall evaluate the application based on the criteria set forth under CMO number 24-2020. So if the application is approved, the ECD shall grant the certified exporter status through issuance of written authorization within 15 working days from the date of receipt of application. So if in case that the application is denied, the ECD shall issue a letter of disapproval duly signed by the Deputy Commissioner AOCG stating the reasons for the denial. So in the written authorization must contain corresponding authorization number, including the date of the authorization. So we also included the written authorization number, the date of effectivity to which the exporter can now issue an origin declaration. ECD shall promptly include in the required details in the ASEAN AWSC database. So immediately after the grant of certified exporter status, the following details must be encoded in the ASEAN AWSC database. So we have here the legal name and address of the certified exporter, the certified exporter authorization number, issuance date and expiry date, if applicable, of the certified exporter authorization number, the list of products subject of the authorization, including product description, HS in 6-digit or AHTN codes, and the list of authorized signatories and their respective specimen signatures. So lahat po ng nabanggit ko from numbers 1 to 5, ito po yung information na ina-upload ng BOC in the ASEAN-Wide Self-Certification Database. What should be written in an origin declaration? So ito po yung minimum information requirements na kailangan pong naka-reflect sa origin declaration once the exporter issues their origin declaration. So first, it has to have the certified exporter details, which is the certified exporter authorization number. Once na mag-apply po niyan ang isang exporter, binibigyan po namin sila ng certified exporter number, which kailangan pong mag-reflect or which kailangan pong ilagay ng exporter sa origin declaration nila every time na mag-export po sila within the ASEAN region. Next is the description of goods. So it should be described in details, the name of the products, HS in 6-digit or AHTN code, even the origin conferring criterion, if it is fully obtained, RVC40 or change in tariff heading, the country of origin, for example, the Philippines, and then the FOB price when the regional value content origin criterion is used, among others, And of course, the certification by an authorized agency. So the certification by an authorized signatory of the certified exporter that the goods specified in the origin declaration meet all the relevant requirements of ROO based on the evidence provided. So it should also be signed and stamped the name of the signatory. So later on, I will show to you the exact template po ng kailangan ilagay or yes with the sa origin declaration. So I have also attached here the indicative format of origin declaration. So you can use any format for as long as the minimum information requirements po ay present po siya. So it should include yung name of products, the HS code, origin conferring criterion, the FOB value, country of goods, and the trademark if applicable. So ito, indicative format lang po siya na kailangan i-follow din po ng exporter. But again, I would like to make it clear that you can use any other format kasi for example, you have 50 products and then since the origin declaration shall be made out in the commercial documents such as the commercial invoice, the billing statement, the packing list, pwede kayong mag-add ng pages. So hindi naman siya minimum lang to one page. So what should be written in an origin declaration? So this is the very exact template that the exporter need to indicate every time they will make out an origin declaration in their commercial documents. So the exporter of the products covered by this document, you have to indicate your certified exporter authorization code declares that except where otherwise clearly indicated, the products satisfy the rules of origin to be considered as originating goods under the ATIGA. So the ASEAN country of origin, of course, it's the Philippines. So ito po yung exact template na need pong ilagay every time na mag-i-issue po ang exporter ng origin declaration. So hindi po dapat ito mawala. Including also the indicative format which I presented in the previous slide. So this is the procedure for preferential tariff treatment for AWSC scheme. So ito naman po, ito yung magiging procedure kapag yung origin declaration ay inbound, meaning galing sa ibang ASEAN country, papunta po dito sa Philippines. So first, for shipments availing of the preferential rate, the box 36 of the import entry must be marked accordingly, and the origin declaration must be a mandatory supporting document. So for example, in the CO, you have to attach your CO. But in the origin declaration, you have to attach your origin declaration through the commercial documents. Next, the customs broker or his or her duly authorized representative lodge and create a ticket using the customer care portal system or the CCPS and attach the invoice declaration and other supporting documents needed to process cargo clearance procedure. After receipt of the ticket number submitted by the broker, the customs examiner checks the accuracy and completeness of the details in the origin declaration and other supporting documents. So if the presented origin declaration is accurate and complete, then the preferential tariff will be granted. If the customs examiner is in doubt of the accuracy of the origin declaration, the said request for preferential tariff treatment shall be subject to retro-verification and or MFN rate of duty will be applied. So kapag may doubt to examiner, instead that the importer will claim his preferential tariff treatment, it will be subjected to MFN rate of duty. That's why it is very important to correctly declare the goods, and of course, the minimum information requirements should reflect in the origin declaration. What happens after an origin declaration is made out? So the origin declarations will be sent to the buyer or customer based in other ASEAN member states, just like the certificate of origin, for purposes of claiming preferential tariff treatment. The origin declarations will be presented by the buyer or the customer to the customs authorities of the importing ASEAN member state for claim of preferential tariff treatment. Withdrawal of the certified exporter status. So the competent authority may withdraw the authorization or the CE status of a company if it no longer fulfills the criteria and obligations required of the certified exporter or is caught abusing the authorization. So Since this AWSC is a self-certification, it no longer pass through the BOC. It's between the exporter and the importer. So if the competent authority caught you abusing the authorization, it will be subject to withdrawal of the CE status. So for example, hindi nyo na meet yung obligations and yung criteria ng isang certified exporter, then it will be a ground to withdraw your certified exporter status. So to summarize, this AWSC scheme, first, you have to check your company's eligibility. You have to contact and apply or register as a CE at the competent authority. So for the Philippines, it's the Bureau of Customs. Make out your origin declarations to claim a TIGAP for preferential tariffs and fulfill the obligations of a certified exporter. So, yan lang po yung need natin na tandaan na kailangan po nating ma-comply yung obligations and yung mga criteria to become a certified exporter. And again, I would like to reiterate that this ASEAN-wide self-certification scheme is only for the ATIGA po. So again, this does not replaces the old CO Form D or the Electronic Certificate of Origin Form D. This is just, again, an additional option for the exporter to use in claiming their preferential tariff treatment. So, flash on your screen is the competent authorities and domestic issuances of ASEAN member states to implement the AWSC. So, for the Philippines, we have the Bureau of Customs, and the domestic issuances on AWSC is the Customs Memorandum Order number 24-2020. It is also posted and uploaded in the BOC official website, the customs.gov.ph. You can download that po kasi everything is also there, including the requirements, the obligations, and the minimum information requirements needed to be reflected in the origin declaration. Okay, so that would be the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and I hope that exporters will be encouraged to use this ASEAN-wide self-certification scheme. Thank you po, and once again, good afternoon.